We love having set guests on the station every week, and we get to know them and we get to see their lives and their careers develop. And a man with us now, he probably thought that his career was coming to an end. He'd taken retirement, and then he thought, no, I want to open a state of the art veterinary practice, which has over 600 customers right now, and it's only been going for a few months. It is Chris. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Gareth. Yeah, we've only been going 6 weeks, so 100 a week if you like. We feel we're doing all right.
Now, if Chris does sound a little bit echoey, that's because as we speak, he's currently lathering himself up. He's actually in the bath, Chris. He is at the moment live from what presumably is your office.
That's right. Yeah, that's it, Gareth. Yeah, just it's a bit of an echoey building.
And we're talking today about the knees of our animals. Now, knee problems, presumably, the bigger the animal and the heavier they are, the more likely they're going to have knee problems.
Yeah, well, you get little light animals get knee problems as well, Gareth, but it doesn't impact them so much because they're light. So the reason we had a chat and I said let's do knees is because I saw a dog yesterday that came in and is quite lame. You can see it's not using his right hind leg. And he's a bit grumpy as well, so we had to put a muzzle on him. And then we had a feel, and it's his kneecap, his patella, keeps slipping off the joint. So it means that the joint doesn't feel stable as it should do.
So, is that something which always happens with age? I mean, I imagine that as a dog gets older, like a human being, the problems come as you get older and the body parts just wear out.
No, this is a condition we see in quite young dogs, Gareth. This luxating patella. We also see problems in horses, interestingly, a different problem, but again a problem with their knee cap as well. And that's called a fixating patella. So the dog, and occasionally the cat, but mainly the dog, mainly small dogs, it's the way the leg is configured. And the patella is held either side of the knee joint by two strong ligaments, and it goes in like a slide up and down. So if you imagine going down a slide at a water park or at your park, and one side, the rather than being nice and high on both sides, it's been for some reason is a bit lower, and you could fall off that side of the slide. And this is what happens to the kneecap. Because one side of the slidey bit is lower, the kneecap can be pulled off. And the reason often that is, it happens in bandy leg dogs, that the pull through the leg isn't straight up and down. So they bandy and it gets pulled over onto the inner aspect of the leg and pops off. And then you get this sort of pop, and it means the dog feels, oh, it's unstable. He wobbles and then stops, and he puts his foot down a couple of times, and off it pops back on again. So it's a funny sensation, a bit like almost like having a dead leg, but not quite.
Sounds absolutely awful, that does. So, what do you do in that situation?
Well, what you can do is put, and the latest thinking is you can put a plastic little slide on top of the bone, and it holds then the kneecap so it doesn't slip off. So it's like coming to the playground and saying, right, that old slide's no good, we'll put a new slide in. And that holds the kneecap in the right position. Plus, you tend to then tighten up the ligaments to hold it in place as well on either side.
And are there certain breeds of dog which suffer from joint problems more than other ones do? So for me, I always imagine a big docile dog, the one that always sits in front of the fire and the one that always eats a lot, is probably going to have more chance of joint problems compared to a whippet, which I always imagine is, such a fast, nimble thing.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, you're right, But actually, the more you use your joints, the more you can wear them out. And doing sudden turns can cause an issue as well, Gareth. It's a bit like footballers. We all could get cruciate leg injuries, but if you just sit in a chair and watch TV, you're not going to damage your cruciate ligament. You'll have other health issues. And so, with whippets that fly around and do sharp turns, or other dogs like that, they are more likely to get this cruciate ligament injury, which you see in footballers.
And presumably, one of the warning signs, I was going to ask about the symptoms, because part of the problem with an animal is that it can't tell you where the pain is. But clearly, do we look out for a dog limping, and do we know immediately that they've got a problem? Or sometimes can it be a little bit more subtle to spot than that?
Generally, if it's something like a cruciate ligament or a kneecap flicking off, you see it straight away. They've suddenly been running around and then suddenly they stop and say, oh, this knee doesn't feel right. But you will also develop arthritis in those knees over a period of time. And that tends to show up after a period of exercise. And the dog will not want to go for such long walks. It will then look very uncomfortable after a long walk and lying around and not wanting, and then it'll start limping. So there's slight different things that can happen in these rather amazing joint, the knee.
And finally, Chris, what do we do to prevent this kind of thing? Because if there's people listening who have just got maybe a new puppy and they hear us talking about this kind of thing, they want to invest into this animal and make sure it's healthy and it's well. What can we do to prevent it?
Well, various things. One, there's been some research that says castrating an animal or spaying an animal too early, particularly in the heavier breeds, can lead to problems in the knees. So we wouldn't say it happens all the time, but the current thinking is small dogs we can carry on castrating at 6 months, larger dogs at 12 months, and giant puppies, pardon me, 18 to 20 months when they've gone through puberty. The other thing you can do, give joint supplements to sort of support the knees, particularly on the bigger breeds. Chondroitin and helps, and glucosamine. And just being mindful, I'm afraid, like people go and play football, they're fit, they do everything right, but you can get these joints just giving way, or the ligament giving way. And it tends to happen more as we get older in that case. But, lively, active dogs can happen to even at young age with sudden twists or putting a foot in a rabbit hole, that sort of thing.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you on, Chris. Thank you very much. And we'll be back with you next week. And you take care, won't you?
Bless you, and have a good week, Gareth.